My name's Daniel Scott. I'm 42 years old, and I've been a long-haul trucker for over 2 decades. I live in Reno, Nevada, but most of my days are spent driving across endless highways, watching the world blur by through my windshield. The night I'm about to tell you about is one I can't forget, no matter how much I want to. It was late, around 2 a.m., and I was driving through the dark, empty roads of Nevada. There was nothing for miles, just flat desert and open sky. The isolation didn't bother me. It never did. In fact, I liked it. But that night, something felt off. I was on Highway 50, also called the loneliest road in America. It lived up to its name. I hadn't seen another vehicle in over an hour. That's when I saw her, a woman standing by the side of the road, waving her arms wildly. At first, I thought my tired eyes were playing tricks on me, but as I got closer, I realized she was real. She was young, maybe in her 20s, wearing a dark jacket and jeans. Her hair was a mess, and she looked terrified. Against my better judgment, I pulled over. She ran up to my truck as soon as I stopped, panting, and said her car had broken down further back. She asked if I could give her a ride to the nearest town. Every instinct told me not to, but something about her desperation made me agree. I told her to hop in. As we drove, the silence between us grew thick. I tried to make small talk, asking where she was headed, but her answers were short and vague. I glanced over at her and noticed something that made my stomach turn. There were bloodstains on her clothes. She caught me looking and shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting to the rearview mirror, like she was expecting someone to be following us. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. Was she hurt, or had something far worse happened? I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the uneasy feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. We eventually reached a small gas station, the only sign of life for miles. I pulled up and suggested she go inside to get some help. Maybe call for a tow truck. She shook her head firmly, saying she'd rather stay in the truck. That's when alarm bells really started going off in my head. While she was distracted, I quickly pulled out my phone and checked the local news. My heart dropped when I saw the headline: "Woman wanted for brutal murder on the run." The police were searching for a young woman who had stabbed her boyfriend to death just a few hours ago. Her description matched the woman sitting right next to me. I felt a cold sweat break out across my forehead. My mind was racing. What was I supposed to do? If I confronted her, she could turn violent. I had to stay calm, play it safe. I turned back around, ready to figure out my next move, but when I looked at the passenger seat, she was gone. Just like that. The door hadn't opened, there was no sound. Nothing. I jumped out of the truck, frantically looking around, but there was no sign of her anywhere. It was like she had vanished into thin air. The gas station was empty, the desert quiet except for the hum of my truck's engine. I stood there alone, feeling the weight of the night press down on me. I drove off, but the whole time, I kept looking over my shoulder, wondering where she had gone, and what could have happened if she hadn't disappeared. Even now, every time I drive that stretch of highway, I can't help but think about her, about what she might have done, or worse, what she was planning to do to me. My name's Sean Brooks. I'm 38, and I've been driving trucks for almost 15 years. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, but my work takes me across the Midwest, hauling loads day and night. You get used to the long, lonely roads out here, but some nights stick with you. This story is one of those. It was around 1 a.m., pitch black outside, and I was on a stretch of highway in Kansas. It was one of those nights where the road seems endless, with nothing but the hum of the engine keeping you company. That's when I spotted it, an abandoned truck on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking in the dark. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe the driver had gone for help or was fixing a flat, but as I got closer, I saw that the driver's door was wide open. That's not normal. No trucker leaves their door open like that in the middle of the night. I slowed down and pulled over a few yards ahead. My instinct told me something was wrong, but I couldn't leave another trucker in trouble out here. I grabbed my radio and called for assistance, giving my location and explaining what I saw. With the radio crackling in the background, I stepped out and walked toward the truck. My boots crunched on the gravel as I approached, and a chill ran down my spine. I don't scare easily, but something about this situation had my nerves on edge. When I reached the cab, that's when I saw it. There were bloody handprints smeared all over the driver's seat and door. The kind you don't forget. I froze for a second, my mind racing. The blood was fresh. It hadn't dried yet. My heart was pounding in my chest. I backed away, stumbling a bit as I grabbed my phone to call the cops. I told them everything. Where I was, what I saw. They told me to stay put and wait for them to arrive. Standing there, alone in the dark, I kept looking over my shoulder, feeling like someone, or something, was watching me. It felt like forever, but the police finally showed up. They swept the area with flashlights, checking every inch of the truck and the surrounding area. But there was no one, no body, no sign of the driver. One of the officers came over to me and asked if I knew anything about the truck. I shook my head. Just saw it sitting here, I said, still shaken. He looked down at his notepad, then back at me. This truck was reported missing 2 days ago, he said. The driver hasn't been found. I felt a chill go down my spine. 2 days. That didn't make sense. How could the blood still be fresh? Where was the driver? And what had happened to him? The officers searched the area for hours, but they didn't find a trace of the missing driver. They eventually told me I could leave, but I had a hard time shaking the feeling that something terrible had happened, and whatever it wasn't over. I got back in my truck, hands shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. As I pulled back onto the highway, my eyes kept darting to the side mirrors, half expecting to see someone, or something, chasing after me. To this day, I can't drive through that stretch of road without thinking about that night. About the bloody handprints, about the driver who was never found, and about whatever might still be out there, waiting in the dark. Some nights, the loneliness of the road doesn't bother me. But after that night, it's the silence that gets to me. My name is Dan Roberts. I'm 45 years old, and I've been a trucker for most of my life, based out of Colorado. The open road used to be peaceful for me, a place where I could just drive and clear my head. But after what happened a few months ago, the road's not so peaceful anymore. It was a late night, around 11 p.m., and I was driving through the mountains in Colorado, heading towards Denver. The roads up there can get pretty quiet, and once you're deep in, it's mostly just you and your rig. I had my CB radio on, like I always do, listening for any traffic updates or chatter from other truckers. That's when I heard it. A faint, crackling voice breaking through the static. "Help, I'm stuck in my truck. Someone's after me." At first, I thought I imagined it. The signal was weak, barely cutting through the static, but the voice was clear enough to send a chill down my spine. I grabbed the mic and responded. "Hey, where are you? I'm on the road too. I can help." But all I got in return was more static. I kept trying, hoping to get a location or any clue about who was calling for help, but there was nothing. Just the sound of the wind and the empty road ahead. As I drove, I passed a few trucks, but they all seemed fine. No one was pulled over, no signs of trouble. I kept an eye out though, checking every rig I passed, expecting to see someone in need. But no one flagged me down. Nothing. I kept going for a few more hours, but that voice stayed in my head, repeating those same words. I thought maybe it was a prank or some trucker messing around on the radio. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next morning, when I finally stopped for a break, I checked the news. That's when I saw it. A trucker had been found dead in his rig, not far from where I had been driving. The report said it looked like foul play, but the details were vague. What really got to me was when they mentioned his CB radio. It had been smashed to pieces. They said it shouldn't have been working at all. No distress calls should have gone out from that truck. But I know what I heard. That voice, asking for help. It was him. I'd heard his final moments, and I'd been too late. Maybe if I'd tried harder, maybe if I'd searched more, I could have found him. I could have done something. Since then, every time I turn on my CB radio, I listen carefully. Every burst of static, every faint sound, it all takes me back to that night. The road doesn't feel safe anymore, and the silence I used to love feels heavy now, filled with the memory of that voice. I keep wondering what happened to that trucker. Who was after him? What made them destroy his radio? And why did I hear that call when no one else could? Sometimes, late at night, when the static cuts in and out on my radio, I swear I can still hear him. That faint voice, begging for help. But I know now, it's too late. It always was.